I'm Kyle Volano, Managing Director here over at Consortium of our technology COEs and program optimization. So our focus really is to bring our expertise to the table as a VAR. We are a value-added reseller. Make sure our clients get the most value out of our solutions and what we sell there. With that, we'll introduce ourselves as we go through. I got Jeff Serio over there.
Hi.
He'll be learning more about what the C4 drinks and giveaways are. I've got Kenny Rogers over here.
Yes, Kenny Rogers, Senior Manager, CrowdStrike Services.
And Tony Tanzi.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
So, a little bit about the history. So, we were founded in 2016 by Larry Pfeiffer. They're based out of New Jersey. We're domestically here in the U.S. As a cyber concierge. You'll see that word a few times. We're actually all Ritz-Carlton trained, as crazy as that sounds. It's told the guys here today, if you were to tell the 12-year-old Kyle that you'd be a concierge, you're like, what are you talking about? So we got that. Tim Murphy was also his first customer, former deputy director of the FBI there. And we really kind of want to make a difference with our clients. Y'all don't want to hear me talk, all the way. So I think we'll go to the next slide there. We're gonna get to our lab and C4 here pretty quick. So, our journey as Consortium, we call ourselves a next-gen VAR. Part of that is what we'll get into, with our COEs, with our lab, and what we're able to bring to the fold there, working with our clients, each day. And we'll go to the next one. So right here we've got over 550 customers worldwide. We've got, you'll see a little bit about CrowdStrike, Cribble, Core Light. So you got Consortium into that. That's the C4. We've got our own proprietary risk quantification product, Metrics That Matter, that we'll get into a little bit. We have, many of our big projects that we do today are tool rationalization. So we look at things like the total cost of ownership, efficacy, right? Get into what we do in our lab, and we give a strategy really of, kind of like how do you rationalize and move to, what's the best way to spend your next dollar? Many of our clients come to us, with they're already on CrowdStrike, maybe they're on a combination of other solutions, how can they really kind of consolidate and strategize that there with the tool sprawl. We also do risk services, with our products. So go to the next slide. So Metrics That Matter, right? So it's actually, I talked about Larry and how we founded it, and this was something that started shortly after 2016 when we founded the company. It's actually a top-down approach. Larry brought in different CISOs, right, and kind of to answer that metrics question. And it's really something where you can, get to what your annual loss expectancy is, and residual risk within less than 30 minutes, putting in your people process, and tools in there, right? It's really kind of a decision support system for much of what we do with tool rationalization. We'd be happy to kind of give you a demo, talk to Ginger there, or myself if you ever want to, see that in depth. And it's something just, again, that's pretty straightforward. It uses some of the same data sets that cyber insurance brokers use. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So part of what we do with it, we do peer analytics. One of the ways that other folks are using it right now is if they are a parent company and they have either subsidiaries, or business units, you're able to measure those and optimize the cybersecurity investments. You're able to really see what your spend compares to other folks commercially and also on the government side there. So it's pretty interesting. Stop by our booth, if you want to see a demo of that. It's not going to be the focus of our presentation because we're actually going to look at the other side of it mainly today. So go to the next slide. So, when I came in, we were kind of doing a lot. I've been with Consortium now for 2 years. I was also a client of Consortium, also a consultant of Consortium before that, right? And kind of the sweet spot of the industry as a value-added reseller for many folks is in that kind of purchase phase. And the first thing that Larry, that Nate, our CEO, told me as they came in, is we really want to focus on those outside edges. So I talked a little bit about the tool rationalization that's on the strategy side, and what my team focuses on is the optimization and extension, right? I don't care what you have if I resell it. I want to make sure that you get the most value out of it, right? And go to bat for our clients to make sure that that works out. So, we'll go to the next slide. So, that's me right there and the team. Some of the core tenets, like I talked about, is getting to value early. Yeah, and I did leave this one out. This is a good one from our CrowdStrike professional event there that we'll get into a little bit later. Yeah, we want to land, expand, and have expert knowledge, right? When you have questions, we have reached back to be it CrowdStrike, Correlate, Cribble, others that you saw up there. We're able to get the answers to your questions there. So again, that's a continuous drive towards optimization, like you saw on the previous slide. So we go to the next one. So what do I think the advantages of my team, and this part of Consortium, in general, talked about being value driven, but partner relationships, kind of where we're able to get, kind of discounts, make sure you get the right pricing. We have our services SKUs that we're able to sell, both, via quote, via, an MSA or other mechanism. We've got, into our client engagement, we can do a demo or POV, right? So if you engage us, especially with CrowdStrike, Cribble, Immersive Labs, we can go spin that up, quick there. We've got training guidance, optimization practices, we get into our labs and live fire exercises, and then also, going to bat. What do we do, right? We try to coach some of the CSMs and TAMs. I spent much of my career as a practitioner, right? And as did, the team here. So we really kind of we come and look with that lens there. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So this is what I'd like you to do if you're interested. We have 4 activities that we'd actually encourage you to sign up, or any of your peers or colleagues if you're interested, right? So we do a CrowdStrike encounter. Kenny's gonna explain a little bit more about what that is. We got a Palo Alto Ultimate Test Drive, and Tony's gonna hit on that. We also have SimSpace simulate live fire exercises. So we've had cases where some of our clients have moved from one product to another product, and they've said, just with how they design the metrics, we're not getting the right visibility, for that, right? That we don't know if anything's happening. So we're able to do a live fire exercise to do that validation. So happy to explain that more. If you come by our booth a little bit later. And we also have a immersive platform where we're doing incident exercises. So if you're interested in any of these or all of these, come by, talk to Ginger down here, and sign up. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So let's hear more about our CrowdStrike COE with Kenny.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Like Kyle said, my name's Kenny Rogers. Not going to sing, so don't worry about that tonight. But that is my real name. So I joined Consortium last year and came over from an MSSP, and basically had the opportunity to build a COE. And everybody asks, what's a COE? It's a center of excellence. So we're focused on one thing. And so in my last position, I led a team around the globe that focused on 18 different products. What we do is focus on CrowdStrike, and they have 29 products. And so when we formed the team last year, our CEO said, I want George Kurtz, who's the CEO of CrowdStrike, to answer Consortium as the best of our best value add or service provider to our customers. And so we began the COE journey. This year we become MSSP, ELT accredited, and also become champion professionals. What does all that mean? We're one of the elite providers of CrowdStrike. We're an up-and-coming company that is kind of like Kyle mentioned, is we're concierge for our customers, and we're here to simplify cybersecurity. Anybody that's been in the profession for a minute knows there's a lot going on. There's a lot of products. We have customers that have upwards of 200 products and maybe 8 people on their team. How do you manage all that? And so what we're here to do is help our customers do more with the tools they have, and then look at other products as well. And so this year, actually last week, we were awarded the Technical Champion Partner of the Year, a real big award from CrowdStrike. And so we're super excited to be here tonight and just talk about it. And Jeffrey came up with the solutions that matter, and that's mainly that we want to help our customers do more with what they have today, and prevent a cyber risk or an outage. Go ahead to the next slide, please. And so a lot of our customers fall into one of these categories where we're helping them to either implement CrowdStrike, integrate it, or optimize. And so we're able to act as an extension of our customers' cybersecurity team. We'll gain access to their tools. We may do an MTM exercise or do a health check. Really, it's just more about building relationships with our customers and partnering with them and acting as a cyber concierge, kind of like Kyle mentioned. And so a lot of our services are around either modernizing what they have today or optimizing, and we do that by doing demos and POVs, risk assessments, and all that fun stuff. Next slide, please. So some of our other services are around advisory services, SOC optimization. Not going to go through all this, but staff augmentation. We may look at identity threat protection or next-gen SIEM and help out from an implementation. We often have customers that come to us and they can purchase the product, but they don't know how to implement it. And so we act as a bench for those customers to extend and optimize the services and solutions they have today. You're going to hear more from Jeffrey Serio about next-gen SIEM, Cribble, and those are real quick key tools in our tool belt. Next slide, please. All right, and so this goes into also one of the exercises we do. We often have customers that come to us and say, okay, I have Defender and I have CrowdStrike. Which one works best? Or maybe a CISO hears that the E5 Microsoft license is going to save the company money. And so what we do, and what's really cool, is use tools that simulate an attack, like breach attack simulation, like Simulate, in a test environment, which Jeff's going to go into a little bit more. And it helps us to see the efficacy of each product, compare the products or the features in each product side by side, and then we're able to spit out a report that helps the customer make an informed decision about which product they should stay with. And they're able to go back to the board and talk through that as well. So this is one of the cool things when I joined. I had a huge team at my last job, didn't have a lab environment like this, wasn't able to simulate attacks, and so really excited to see what Jeff's got in store for us today. Next slide, please. All right, so this just goes into us being the AMS, which is America's Technical Champion of the Year. Really big deal for us. We're also the lead partner, so we're here to partner with our customers on their journey. I think that's my last slide, Jeff, isn't it? The other thing I wanted to bring up was what Kyle was talking about. There's what we call a Falcon Encounter, which is basically a test drive. And so you're able to go in and look at CrowdStrike. And I know we've met a lot of students here today. You're able to log into CrowdStrike, look and see what it's like under the hood. You can't make any changes, but you can actually go in and look at the product and see how it functions. And then it's basically a capture the flag exercise. So you're able to go through and do some configuration or threat hunting and see the life of a SOC analyst per se. And so if anybody has any questions, I have a code, a URL you can sign up for it. Would love to talk to you a little bit more about CrowdStrike. Either you're a current customer or you're about to be a new customer. So with that, I'll pass it over to Tony.
Thanks, Kenny. Hi, folks. Tony Tanzi here. I run our Network and Edge Security COE. So Network and Edge Security is all about next-gen firewall, SASE. Does anybody have SASE deployed today or looking at SASE as a solution? Right, next-gen firewall in the cloud, next-gen firewall on-prem. Number of vendors there that cover that market space, Palo Alto being one, Zscaler, AppGate. There's a number of those, Fortinet on the firewall side as well, and SASE. Next slide. So some of the things that we do, firewall review. So what we find, and this is also what Palo Alto finds, is when customers do migrations, let's say from another firewall to say a Palo Alto firewall, one of the things that they have to do is what we call like migration, right? The thing that makes a next-gen firewall a next-gen firewall is the ability to control by application, by layer 7 signature, not just by port and protocol. But when you're moving from a legacy port and protocol based firewall to a next-gen firewall, you can't really turn on those next-gen features until you get some visibility. So you do that like-for-like migration, then once you get that visibility, you can then turn on some of the things like App ID layer 7 control, threat prevention, URL filtering, zero-day malware detection, all of those things. But what we do with customers is when they go through this journey, it does take time. And many times, as we all are, very busy, they get partway through the process, and then it kind of stalls. So we do firewall rule reviews to look at a number of things. Number one, the adoption of the features, right? You're paying for a lot of features. Many of them are in the way of subscriptions for things like URL filtering, threat prevention. We want to make sure that you're getting the most out of your deployment. You're taking advantage of those features. Palo Alto, for example, in the metadata that they collect from customers that go through these types of things, 35% of the features are being used, right? So we're here to help customers get the most out of the features they're paying for, get the most out of their investment, also look at their configuration and make recommendations around best practices. And that's just not policy configurations. There are certain behaviors in firewalls on what they're supposed to do when certain things happen. And they're not standard policy configuration. It's just a configuration of the device itself. And it's good to understand what those options are so that if that firewall was ever in that situation, you know how it's going to behave and what's going to happen when those situations occur. And then we go deeper and look at your actual policy to see where we can make changes or do rule consolidation. Many times we find that there's a lot of overlap, what we call rule shadowing, where there's rules that have the same logic, they may have the same source destination, and just different port numbers, right? Maybe we can consolidate some of those rules and make recommendations on how to do them, or rules that are too permissive, that we think need to be tightened down, can become an area for them. That's going to be an area of compromise. And then things like firewall implementation and migration. Again, moving from one firewall to another, helping with those migrations. And because it's important to understand, a lot of the manufacturers like Cisco and Palo Alto implement things like NAT very differently. So it's good to understand those differences on how you configure those types of policies. And then our Security Center of Excellence, continuous optimization. Again, helping customers get the most out of their investment, making sure they're taking advantage of all the features that they're paying for. And then we have a lot of customers that are looking at SASE and SSE, right? We find that a lot of organizations, they may have a lot of branch offices. And what we're kind of seeing a trend where when it comes time to refresh those firewalls at a branch office, if all they're doing is north-south perimeter-based security, they don't have a DMZ, they're not doing any inbound security, they're not doing any network segmentation through the firewall, strictly north-south. We're finding that customers now, when it comes time to refresh those firewalls, they're really looking at SASE because it gives them the ability now to make a connection from that branch into firewall as a service, where they no longer have to have that firewall on-prem to refresh every 5 or 6 years, get new firewalls, configure them, deploy them, get the downtime. They're moving to a SASE-based solution for those branch offices, using things like SD-WAN as well for private applications, and then having all the internet traffic go through that SASE firewall as a service. Next slide. So here's an example, right? When we go through these exercises, this is for Palo Alto, we can actually show you, based on the features that you have paid for, what your utilization is. To what extent are you utilizing those features that you're paying for? So we can help then look at where we can get better utilization, better use of the features we're paying for. And then we also look at configuration to see how many rules are failing a best practice check. And why are they failing a best practice check? Could be very simple. Could be something like the rule doesn't have a description on it, and that's what we're looking for. Or it could be that there's no profiles assigned to those policies. So again, the feature is represented as a profile. Maybe we're not using those, right? Again, taking advantage of all the features that we have. And then looking at our entire rule base to see what's there. What's failing best practices? What can we make recommendations on to give that firewall a better posture? Next slide. So Kyle talked about Palo Alto UTD. Palo Alto has what they call Ultimate Test Drive. This is a 3 to 4 hour commitment, but it is hands-on, guided workshop using Palo Alto technology. So if you're looking at something like Palo Alto Networks, and you want to look at Cloud Next-Gen Firewall in AWS, I want to get more detail about that. I want to see how you configure and deploy that, that's what the UTDs are. Hands-on, 3 to 4 hours, scripted configuration in these environments. So self-guided, you're learning how to deploy the different technologies in the different environments. So we can help guide these. If you're interested in these, again, please say Ginger, and we'll get these scheduled and send you an invite for that. Slide. All right, I will turn it over to my friend Jeffrey.
Main event.
Hey everybody, can y'all hear me? All right, great. Let's go ahead and get into it. My name's Jeff. Lead the observability here at Consortium. I like to kind of ground stuff in like an analogy. So the analogy I'll use today is an embarrassing one for me. On the way here, I ran out of gas. I'm a full-grown adult. I forgot to put gas in my car. I ended up on the side of the road, had to call my boss, tell him I was going to be late. And how could have I, in charge of observability, not have been observant? It's easy to look over these things. It's easy to forget about tiny little things. I mean, as an adult, I shouldn't have. But if I had used a SIM, for instance, if I was in my network, let's say I had to do something in my network, I could just somebody hooked up a thermometer to our SIM solution once and used it to tell if their turkey was burning. I could have done the same thing with my car. I could have hooked it in, had a Slack pop up, hey, you're running out of gas, idiot, go and fuel your car. Hey, you're really running out of gas, please go fuel your car. Things like that. So I'll be moving in and out of that analogy this entire time to kind of display things as they are. I work mostly in Next-Gen SIM. That's a Falcon product. It is, if you have CrowdStrike, you already have Next-Gen SIM, most likely, in your environment, and you're able to use it. Let's kind of move through it. So, what you have here, right here, in your hamburger menu, you'll have Next-Gen SIM. Okay. A couple of the great things that you can just use pretty intuitively, if you know CrowdStrike, are detections and incidents. It has first-party data already in there. You don't have to do anything for it. The only time you need to do anything is to import third-party data, right? So the detections that you're already used to in CrowdStrike already exist there. And if you enter in third-party data and you import that, and I'll show you how we do that, you'll be able to have the same detections and incidents in machine learning that you know and love go directly into your system, and it'll put up detections, all right, and incidents. So let's move into the analogy. My gas gauge had a little yellow light the entire time that I ignored, right? Though that is a detection. The light was yellow, I ignored it, I was running out of fuel. These are tiny little things that kind of build up to kind of describe an incident. All right, so here we are, we're in detections here, right? You can move into any one of these if you've never seen these before. This one is generated by Corelight, all right? You can see exactly what it was doing, what it was looking at. Here's the indicator ID. Let's see. This was generated by a Suricata rule set. I'll get more into Corelight and Suricata and all of that a little bit further. That's part of our C4 part of the demonstration. And it was just looking at a threat using that Suricata rule, and it generated a detection. All right. You can move more into these detections by hitting View Full Detection, and it'll give you an entire breakdown. You can add comments. You can do all sorts of things. It's a pretty powerful tool. All right. One of the great things, I think, have y'all heard of MITRE at all? Do you guys use it? All right. One of the cool things that I like about Next-Gen SIM and CrowdStrike is they map everything to MITRE. So in this detection view, you can go ahead and hit this MITRE matrix, and you can turn it on, and you can see where all of your detections and potential incidences fall within the MITRE attack framework. And you can go and drill down from there. We see that there's a lot of red here in user execution. You can just click into that. It'll filter it out for you, and you'll be able to pull it up. Okay. It does take up a lot of screen space, so if you had a larger monitor or 2 monitors, you'd be able to see it a lot better than I can. But it's one of the things that you can do that I think is very useful. Another thing is you can group by. I like to group by category. So this is very similar to MITRE. You can group by network and it'll just group it automatically. And we'll go into network really quick and you'll see all of these are mainly generated by Corelight, which is a network like detection tool. All right, you can go. Yeah.
You want to refer to MITRE attack, because MITRE has a bunch of different products
Fair.
that are all valuable, and it's a little bit less confusing if you say MITRE attack each time.
Okay, fair. MITRE attack framework. There you go. You're welcome. All right, so you can go into here. You have the different severities, all of that, pretty easy. It also has another tool within the platform is Charlotte. A lot of things you can do in here. Charlotte is basically like CrowdStrike's ChatGPT. And it actually goes through and it does AI to determine whether or not something is likely a true positive or not. All right, so you can kind of filter on that, or you can exclude it. So I just filtered on that. These are showing what Charlotte views as a true positive. Okay.
Charlotte's an analytics AI, not a generative AI.
It is a generative AI too, but yes, it has both. You can have, there's a new Charlotte product, which you can use just like ChatGPT. It's not as fully fledged as ChatGPT, but you can sit in there and you can tell it, hey, write me a query to search for brute force or something silly like that. And it will help you write a query to search for brute force using like Corelight or something. So there is that generative AI component. Also within here, that's actually a pretty good segue into incidences.
I'm not a paid actor.
You're not? All right. So incidents. What is an incident? Like what is the transition from incident to detection? All right. A detection for my car was the gas light was on. The accelerator stopped working. My car was slowing down. Those were detections. The incident was I ran out of gas and I'm stuck on the side of the road. All right. So when you look at these, that's where you get into the incidences. Let's group by severity. Okay. So what can you do with an incident? It has all of those detections in there, and you can get sort of a 13,000-foot view by just clicking into it and reading what it has to say. It has a lot of information in here. But the real, I guess, gem of this view is see the full incident. This brings you to the incident workbench. Okay. So as you see, this one's pretty messy. I just chose the high severity one. We ran a bunch of detection tests in here. But as you can see, it sort of maps it out. It has it so that you can see all of the incidences. It's a collaborative workbench, so you can assign it to people. You can add notes. You can do all sorts of things in here. If you go to event timeline, you can see when stuff started and see each detection as it sort of happened and then how it came to the verdict that it was an incident or potentially an incident. I'll pick a less noisy one so that you don't see this mess of a graph. All right. Okay. All right. So one of the other things that Charlotte does, and I generated this before because it takes a few minutes to do, is you have an incident. You went through the triage. You made all of your notes. You assigned it to people. You said, okay, this is a true positive. I need to do an incident report and submit it up. It'll actually help you do that. So what would take an analyst like 1 to 6 days takes 15 to 30 minutes to generate. This is separate from this is not completely separate from the generative AI component because it is generative AI, but it's not part of the query set. You don't have to pay for this. You get 1,000 of these a month or 100 of these a month. You get 100 of these a month that you get to use, and you just click investigate using Charlotte, and it will generate this report for you. It'll tell you when it started. It'll tell you the hosts. It'll tell you everything you need to know for your incident reports so you don't have to go through the drudgery of creating this. All right. Cool. Any questions on the sort of incidents and detections component? No? All right. Let's go to, let's see.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Yep, that's what I'm going to show you.
Okay.
So, perfect segue, great question. Also not a paid actor, I promise. In here, here's all of your log data. Now you can look at just the first party log data if you wanted to. All right, you can just go into here and click Falcon, or you can use just the vendor equals, I think it's Falcon, it might just be CrowdStrike. I forget the exact vendor for that. Let's just click into here and get it. Oh, I'll just go to first party. So Falcon data, this is your first party Falcon data, the ones you know and love. This would already be in your system. You wouldn't have to do anything for this. Okay. You can look at the log itself, digested and nice. Okay, boom. You can look at the raw log if you wanted to like do your own regexes in the advanced search, whatever you wanted to do. Okay. But really we want to look at fields and do our own sort of correlations and stuff. This uses CQL. It's a very simple querying language. It's not SQL like SQL. It's C as in CrowdStrike query language. It's pretty intuitive. The full syntax is right here whenever you want to use it. I won't go through in how to make an entire query. But you can easily search the fields here. Like, let's see. I'm just going to pick one at random. All right. That was not a good one. All right. So as you can see here, it will tell you in each of the field, it'll give you what's in there. This goes by default for the first 200. So if you wanted to do more than just 200 events to kind of filter through this, you just hit fetch more and it'll do all of them. But you can use this to easily pivot into a query. So you won't have to do it yourself and build one. Or if you have Charlotte, Charlotte will build one for you. All right, let's say you wanted to look at this guy. You would just hit equal here, right? And it would pull up all of the logs for that guy. Let's say then you wanted to look at, you wanted to exclude this. You would just go in here and click exclude. Okay. Oh, it added an extra thing for me. All right, and it just builds the query for you. Very simply, these are very simple queries. You have a very basic language. You can do and statements or statements. You can do advanced like subqueries. The world's your oyster. It's a fully fledged sort of querying language. Almost Turing complete. I've done some pretty cool stuff with it. All right. Anybody wanted to see anything in particular log-wise? No? Okay. All right. Well, then I'll move into describing C4. Cool. All right. So C4, as you guys noticed, we have these we were giving out these little energy drinks, C4, because we're explosive, but also because, yeah, I had to. A little cheap shot, little dad joke. It stands for Consortium, of course. Cribble, CrowdStrike, and Corelight. Those are our three main partners, and we're doing pretty soon a webinar with them where we've incorporated all components of those services into a lab environment. All right. And we're going to do a webinar based on that, showing the power of how well we work together. So it's like a better together story. We're all besties. All right. So I'm going to show the lab, kind of where we're doing all of this. If it loads, I promise I loaded this before, but I have a little gremlin today. It's out of gas. My Thank you for that. Thank you. Portal maintenance. Oh no. Okay. Well, I'll just have to describe the sim space. Look, I have a gremlin today. I'm sorry, y'all. But essentially, right. We have a fully fledged lab. We use it in the live fire exercise too, but also for webinars and stuff. What we do for the live fire is we'll build a network with all the components of your network if you wanted to do one. We would throw in, let's say you had like Amazon Linux boxes, you had Red Hat, you have a bunch of Windows servers, Azure, domain controllers, the whole nine. We put that in there. And then we take our, what do you call it, breach simulator, attack simulator, and then we run a bunch of tests on it. We throw the kitchen sink at it. And that's what we use for the live fire exercises. It shows you, one, how well things kind of stack up against each other. So let's say we were comparing Defender to CrowdStrike. We would put both Defender and CrowdStrike on the same machine, same playing field, same everything, similar to your environment, and we would run an attack simulation. And that attack simulation would give us a number of how many breaches were detected by the tools and how many were blocked by the tool, right? And then we would report that to you. So you have apples to apples, how these things work together. All right. So what we did for C4 to work together is we created an entire lab environment. We put in the CoreLight sensors. CoreLight is a network detection tool. It can do packet decryption. It does the Suricata rules. It does DNS. It looks at stuff going across the wire, and it can decrypt it, and it can do a bunch of things based on that. It throws in threat intelligence. It's a very powerful tool. We inserted that in our environment, along with all of the other stuff that goes with the environment, okay? And we took those logs, we took them, and we started logging them, all right? To do that, we used Cribble. Cribble is, I think, my favorite product, if I'm honest, next to NextGen SIM, of course. It is a fully fledged log management pipeline. It's basically all of the plumbing to get your logs in. The core product is Cribble Stream. I'll just go over the different products really quick. The core product is Cribble Stream. You have logs, you want to get them somewhere, you send it to Cribble Stream, and you direct it to where it goes. You literally drag and drop. It can bifurcate a pipeline, it can duplicate, it can dual home, it can filter, it can deduplicate, a bunch of stuff. All right, you have Cribble Edge. This lives on the endpoints. You know those agents that you always have to install to get like DHCP logs, to get like DNS logs, to get Windows WinEvents logs, all that stuff. It takes the complication out of that. You just have a script that you run. You can throw it in a group policy if you want, or Ansible, or whatever orchestration tool you have, and it will deploy it out, and then it'll automatically configure it to talk with your with Cribble Cloud or with your Cribble. I'm blanking on the word, but the Cribble Manager. There it goes. And you can manage it remotely, grab the logs, and send them in through Cribble Stream. All right, so that's Cribble Edge. Cribble Lake, it is like a S4 bucket. You just throw your data in there. It's a very cheap storage solution for your logs. The advantage to this is it's cheap. If you have your logs set up the right way, you filter out stuff you don't need to go to your SIM to save you money. You send the rest of it for compliance reasons to the Cribble Lake to hold, and then you can go and search it later and find it. And Cribble Search allows you to do that. It allows you to search on Lake or in an S4 bucket or S3 bucket, sorry, or anything you want. Okay. So those are the different solutions there. All right. So Cribble will allow you to do a bunch of stuff with actually getting the logs in there, but we'll just go to Quick Connect for routing. So you can see just how easy it is. You configure it to send logs in. That's what this is. These are the logs coming in, right? And then you can just literally, if you wanted to go somewhere, you just take it and you drag and you drop it to that location, okay? When you do that, you can just pass through the logs. This will be unfiltered, which kind of defeats the purpose of Cribble. The one main thing that Cribble will give you is a way to filter out stuff you don't need. And what that does is that reduces your costs in something like Splunk. You pay for ingest, it takes and splits it in half, right? It deduplicates, it takes out like, let's say you didn't care about every single deny log in your firewall, let's take it out. Right? It can do that inline, and that's done through a pipeline, or you can download a pack, which are already created and very sophisticated and optimized for whatever solution you're looking at. Just drag and drop, really easy. All right, these are pretty simple to set up. I won't go through the rigmarole of setting it up, but that's just how you onboard data. All right, questions on Cribble? Do we like it? Yeah?
So applying it for our clients to the Palo Alto example, so that's one of the log sources where you're getting the most volume, right? So on average, Jeff, you can tell me if I'm right, I think it's 40% compression you're getting by doing a Cribble activation against Palo Alto, which basically, for many of our clients, pays for the actual product and engagement itself.
Yeah. Like the ingest on Cribble is much cheaper than the ingest on Splunk. And so, or on a Splunk or a Next-Gen SIEM even. Filter that out. You only pay for it to go into Cribble. It doesn't go over there. It pays for itself. It'll save you the money that you would get. And it allows you to do things like build dashboards on log health. Some really large companies have entire teams just dedicated to log health. You can replace that with a dashboard.
But you're not really compressing, you're filtering.
No, you're filtering. Yeah, you're filtering.
What is your confidence about true positive there or false positive there?
There is like a risk-benefit analysis that you have to perform on whether or not you actually need that log source, as with anything. That's why it's always good to combine it with something like Cribble Lake or an S3 bucket that you can throw your logs in, because there is that chance that maybe you missed something.
Because zero-day attacks will leverage that one, right? They have the knowledge of what you're filtering and they will just rely on that.
That's true, but you're still getting like your, let's say your machine learning logs, all the things that you would normally look at. The machine learning is really good at detecting zero-day abnormalities within the network. If you have UEBA, that's the best thing for it. So you're filtering out things like every single deny in your firewall, things like that. Like that's just the thing that pops head. You had a question?
I did. Whenever you're doing the filtering,
Mm-hmm.
is the filtering happening on the agent side or is it happening on the ingest side?
It's happening in Cribble. So if you go into here, let's see, come on. All right, so you do this input here, right? And you tell it what to do on output. So all of these are little rules that are done. And what you can see here is you can capture the data as it comes in. And once you configure the rule, it'll show you what was actually filtered out. So you can see it as it happens. So it doesn't happen at the agent, it happens in this sort of middleman, okay?
The buckets that it gets sent to,
Uh-huh.
is that Cribble managed or is that like actually like an Amazon S3 bucket?
Whatever you want. So
Like things like mini IO, for example, that are, you can like, host that. Is it Cribble offering those S3 storage options or is that?
yes, well, yes and no. It is, Cribble Lake is that storage option, but if you wanted to send it to a bucket, an S3 bucket that you manage, yeah, just send it out, just drag and drop. You just set up a source or destination over here, and you just drag the log to there, and it dual homes your pipeline. So, and you just send it pass through as opposed to filtering it.
And when it's stored in a bucket,
Uh-huh.
does Cribble offer like compaction of those logs?
Like a compression of it.
Well, like sometimes they'll have logs will have like several duplicate logs
Mm-hmm.
that they may only differ from things like a timestamp,
Yeah.
and certain services can actually optimize the storage of that, somewhat like a hash table sort of idea,
Okay.
where there's like a reference to the duplicate portions of the lines, saving a pretty tremendous amount of space.
Yeah.
A good example is like Grafana Loki
Mhm.
offers this. A lot of their log aggregation stuff does offer like the ability to compact things within a bucket later to save storage space. Does it just kind of like throw it in there?
It just throws it in there.
Kind of,
Yeah. Now, you could filter it beforehand. You could say these things are the same thing, they just differ by a timestamp. You can put that logic in here and filter it out before it gets there. But as far as once it's there, it's there. Okay, cool. Does that answer your question?
yes.
All right. I think I saw another hand.
I think I can add, because I'm actually looking at Cribble right now.
Okay.
And to help you understand this is, so your collector, right, that you have in your network gets all this log aggregation and all this raw, ginormous data, When it shoots it over to Cribble, Cribble will take that and kind of pass it through a napkin. So like I said, like something that can be marked over with a timestamp that is duplicated, it'll clean that. It'll clean these logs, or you can measure to what portions of it you want it to clean. So when it goes into your SIM or into whatever your other device is, whatever capacity it was, like say you're shooting 70% capacity right now, right? Once this gets done cleaning out the excess and the extras and the extra zeros and ones that just sits in between packets, right? It compacts it, well, not necessarily compacts it, it identifies it, and now your reduction is as 30%. So you just went from, let's say, 7 billion logs that passed through today from your collector into Cribble, but your SIM or your whatever your other endpoint device is only receiving 2 billion. Because all the rest was just extra stamps and data, whatever. If that makes sense.
It does.
You're welcome.
Thank you. A round of applause for our friend here. Thank you, thank you. I thought I saw another. Yeah.
So is this something works only with CrowdStrike, or you can
No, it's agnostic. Yeah.
everything you want?
Anything you want. I could feed it my car logs if I wanted to, and it would send it through. Yeah. Probably could have prevented, because my Slack would have popped up on my little Android Auto while I was vibing to my music, but
It is a
Yeah.
true story that a partner hooked their turkey hooker.
yeah.
And when you were, so it takes data from basically everything, and I'm assuming it sends data also to everything.
Yeah, that's what, see how you
That's
can,
all of these, okay.
you can bifurcate. So we're sending, all of the logs we're sending down to NextGen SIM, we're also sending to Lake. The difference is in NextGen SIM, we're filtering it, in Lake, we're not.
And I'm assuming if there's any specific technologies that currently not supported, I'm assuming these are coming.
You would just use like the open source, like you would just do a standard Stix taxi, HEC connector, or API pull, or just syslog.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Any others? No? Okay. All right, so let's go back to our good friend NextGen SIM. All right, back to detections. Okay, so in the webinar, we're going to get in more detail. How am I on time? 7:40. 7:40?
I think we got a little bit, I think.
Yeah? Okay.
10 minutes. So.
All right, cool. So let's do this group by category. All right. Am I in detections? That's why. All right. And source product, I'm going to go with Corelight because this is C4. We're better together. We love Corelight. We're besties. All right. What you have in here, just the incidences, are the detections that we already kind of went over. I'm going to show you how you can kind of pivot from
While you're doing
here.
that, for everyone's edification, Corelight is the commercial version of Zeek.
All right, cool. So Corelight, what it does is it, as you said, commercial version of Zeek, it takes in your network packets. It reads them, it does things, it compares them against a bunch of rule sets that it has that you can import. We have it set up to import the threat intelligence from CrowdStrike because that's very great threat intelligence. All right, it goes into here and it generates detections. It generates it based on sort of the threat category that it's already in there. It has scores, it has everything. It's pretty great. What you can do is you can go into, where are you, advanced search? If you go into the logs, you'll see just how rich this information is, and we can get to preview some of what you can do. Vendor equal Corelight. All right. So what you're looking at here are all the Corelight logs. Let's just look at the fields that are available to you. All right, so you can see there's a wealth of information here. You see some basic stuff. You have like who did what, when, like the page size, let's do 100. You can see the ports going across, the protocols going across. You can see DNS logs. You can see the HTTP request itself. Let's see, ports. You can see the indicators. It'll show you the Suricata rules. It'll show you how it got there, everything. It's very rich data. Let's go ahead and move out of this view. Okay. Let's go with a problem. What sort of network data do you guys have a hard time finding? Let's see if we can find it in here. Anybody? No? API? All right, let's see if we can find that. Maybe you found my Achilles heel. I don't know if I can find a... Let's see. That would be like some sort of HTTP response or something. Yeah? All right, let's go with that. All right. Status code, method. That doesn't help. All right, well, looks like I had another embarrassing moment today. But let's see. You can see the file hash of something kind of going across the wire, which is always sort of great for detecting something. You can see whether or not something was done correctly, like if it was posted, if it was successful, unsuccessful. There's just a lot of great information within Corelight that you can grab. That, yeah, you can see the services. It has a bunch of vendor-specific rules that you can go into. Let's see, what's the one I normally go to? Vendor dot underscore, here we go. All right, so vendor underscore path will kind of narrow things down. If you wanted to go to Suricata, I mentioned it a lot, but it's very powerful. It's basically where the threat intelligence is. So if you filter on your Suricata stats, you'll get a wealth of information that you can then use. The right sort of network engineer will be able to interpret this for you, and you'll be able to find a detection. All right.
I think, Jeff, we have a few minutes left there, so I think maybe we'll take some questions on this. And
Yeah.
then maybe have Dante and Ginger come up and talk about next week a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. Questions?
Anyone have any questions or want to see anything about C4 or what?
My question on the next generation is this is more of a is it more of a real-time network monitoring, or this is more of a specifically like network and packet?
No, it's a full SIM. It's a fully fledged SIM. So any data you put in there, you can put correlations on it. Machine learning will automatically be done. The
So you can feed basically also a lot of stuff into this.
Anything you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like we had mentioned before, somebody fed their turkey thermometer
Through this.
into here.
Okay.
Yeah,
True story.
yeah, true story. It was like they showed it to us too. It was like it's gonna burn. It like set up a detection. Done. And then when the temperature got above that too far, it was like burnt.
And that's what the rules are basically.
Yeah.
Set-
A correlation
okay.
rule.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Another thing I forgot to mention is there's also a SOAR, a fully fledged SOAR, basically inside of here. So you can, if something happened, like let's say you had a detection that you automatically did, a correlation that you configured, you can configure a SOAR rule. It'll take it, you make a workflow. This happened. Oh, and then this also happened. Go ahead and tell this, block this and quarantine this computer. All right, it'll automatically do that. Or this happened and this happened. This is definitely something you need to look at. Send a Slack message to John Doe. All right, cool. Any other questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks everyone for staying here and listening. With that, I got